Hi, and welcome. This is a simple little flow centered around the glute bridge. This is a classic exercise for a reason. It's accessible and effective, and it serves to train better awareness and function in the gluteus maximus muscle. This is an important muscle because it's not only the primary extensor and external rotator of the hip, but it also provides stability for the pelvis and the low back as well. You don't need any props, just enough floor space to comfortably lie down. So come on down to your back, and we're just going to have the feet planted at about hip distance apart. You're going to let your arms just relax down by your sides at whatever angle feels comfortable. Now take a moment to just feel the contact of the feet into the floor here, and you're going to think about pressing down evenly through the front and the back of the feet and just lifting up the hips to a pretty conservative height. So we don't need to go really high up here or go for a big back bend. In fact, you're just going to pause somewhere that feels relatively easy, and we're going to be here for a moment to really start to feel the muscle on the back of that hip working a little bit. If you're feeling this in your low back, you can just find a small lengthening of the tailbone towards the backs of your knees. And as we take a few breaths here, just visualize or feel or sense the knees tracking forward over the toes. Continue pressing down evenly through the front and the back of each foot, the inner and the outer heel, and the balls of the big toe and the little toe. And you should be starting to feel some work around the back of the pelvis, maybe around the sitting bone area as well. If so, good. Let's take another breath in. And as you exhale, with control, just lower the hips back down to the floor. Take a moment to relax. Give yourself a full cycle of inhale and an exhale. Good, so let's lift in and out of this a few more times. Maybe you time it with the breath, so you're inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. Maybe the breath is just flowing on its own, but staying active and relaxed. And just looking to connect to that sense of engagement and activation in the glutes at the top of the lift. And as you take the next few rounds here, you might start to fine-tune your awareness of the movement, maybe noticing if there's parts of the movement that are more challenging to control. Maybe there's some side-to-side wobbles happening as you lift or lower. So see if you can just imagine the pelvis kind of tracking up and down here. I'm not worrying too much about making it completely perfect. Checking in with the contact of the feet with the floor, seeing if you can even things out there. We've got just a couple more. And the next time that you release the hips back down to the floor, go ahead and pause there and just find a relaxed cycle of breath. Widen your feet a little bit, and then windshield wiper the knees side to side. Now see if you can use the sweeping motion of the legs side to side here to just find a little bit more ease in the back of the hip, where a moment ago there was contraction and effort. Maybe the massaging effect of the floor on those muscles is helping to experience that as well. Now let's bring the knees back up to center and the feet back to that hip width distance here. So you have the option for our second set to do exactly what we did the first time around. So lifting and lowering and just feeling the strength and the support provided by the gluteus maximus. If you feel like you've got room to explore a little bit more here, we can also add a small emphasis on the hamstrings. So whichever version you're doing, go ahead and just lift the hips up. Again, just pausing at a height that feels sustainable. Reconnect with that feeling of active engagement through the back of the pelvis. And then without actually moving your feet, try to drag your heels back towards your shoulders. You're just going to feel a little bit more through the backs of the thighs here. Now, if you want, you can reconnect with this action through our next little sequence of lifting and lowering. So go ahead and just release the hips back down to the floor. We'll move as before. You're lifting, maybe you find that slight dragging back action of the heels at the top, and then maintain that as you release back down. And you can experiment with what feels sustainable and productive to you here. So maybe a little bit of extra burn and effort actually feels really good. Or maybe you want to tone it down a little bit to keep the movement sustainable. Finding that balance of effort and ease. Noticing if you're starting to tense or clench anywhere else in the body. If the breath is getting choppy, these might all be useful signs to just take the effort down a notch. Just finding a couple more. And then releasing the hips back down to the floor. Once again, take a moment here to deliberately feel the glutes release. And helping that process along, just walking the feet wide, taking the arms wider as well if you like, before windshield wipering side to side. Maybe that massaging action, the pressure of the floor on the muscles feels good, in which case just keep going exactly as you are. If you want maybe a smidge more sensation here, bring the knees up to center and then just hook one ankle over the thigh. Finding this figure 4 shape here. Good. Continue to windshield wiper, or if you're in the figure 4, just switching that out to come to the second side. Good. And then bringing those movements to a close, just finding your way over into a side lying position and pressing up to a seat from there. Maybe taking a moment to pause and notice how things feel here. Thanks as always for practicing with me. I hope that was interesting and helpful and maybe give you a little bit of a burn. As always, let me know if you have any questions at all.